Bill Miller asks, on January 14th, 2001, WCW had a pay-per-view in Indianapolis, Indiana, titled WCW Sin. You were on the card defending the United States Championship versus General Rection, Bill DeMott. That's the worst name in the world. What was your thoughts on the match? And what was it like working in Indianapolis? And what were your thoughts on the Sid Vicious injury? So this is the pay-per-view where he snaps his leg. We'll leave that till last, but the thoughts on the match with Bill DeMott, General Rection.
But oddly enough, I didn't know until that night, because I knew Bill well from that point. And he had told me after the match that he had a match with me in ECW. I didn't even remember being there in ECW. There were a lot of people that come in and get tryouts and would be there and then gone. But in that match, Bill was always solid to work with. Rarely stiff, snug like ECW was. And we're on the floor fighting, and the table is on the floor leaning against the railing, and we tease it, and he eventually ends up reversing and throwing me through it. And my recollections was of this looks so cartoonish fake, because oddly enough, it cut me. It looks like I've had an appendectomy, because it cut me right where you'd have the appendectomy. And it's the formica on that table, when it gets split like that, can be sharp as a razor. And it's a clean cut right across. I'm bleeding, from that. But I look at the table afterwards, and it's like a cartoon cutout of me. It's gone through the table. It looks just so fake because of that. But I always thought Indianapolis was a great town to work in. But by this time, I grew up in Pittsburgh, obviously, and Pittsburgh was what we consider a wrestling town. And I think there's a lot of those around the country. But as by the time we're talking now in the 90s and 2001, the business has hit this stride, this monster scale. And because of that, largely because of the WWF, there was, every town was a wrestling town suddenly. And, going into Indianapolis, because again, I think it's the sports town. Pittsburgh's a sports town. New York's a sports town. You have Atlanta's a sports town. You go to Chicago and Indianapolis and these places where you have a big sports contingency and successful sports teams. Seemed like wrestling would always do just a little bit better in those towns, and the fans were, much like the Pittsburgh Steelers fans that everybody hates, right? Because they're successful. They bring that sports oomph, that sports vivacious, energy that they would bring to a Colts game or Steelers game. They bring to the wrestling arena, and because of the way we do what we do, it being set up, and it's a sports entertainment that it's almost by design. Okay, ready? Because here's going to come the pop right here. Boom. And there's the pop. So we know how as performers, we know what to do to maximize that in certain places. And Indianapolis, in my recollection, when I think of wrestling towns and the towns that I used to love going to, Indianapolis was one of those, because the fans brought that fervor with them.